Hello, and welcome to this session, one of several that we're hosting during the DIF 2023. I'm Carolyn, co-founder of We Teach Well, an education consultancy offering coaching and PD for English and literature teachers. In a moment, I will introduce you to our workshop and the wonderful digital learning designer who's going to be showing us some alternative activities for our English classes and some intertextual ways that the digital literacy curriculum can contribute to the English curriculum. But first, We Teach Well acknowledges the sovereignty of the traditional custodians of the lands where we live and work. We pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. We recognize that sovereignty was never ceded and that the land is and will always be Aboriginal land. As an education business, We Teach Well recognizes the value of traditional Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander education systems and promotes increased Aboriginal involvement in education at state and federal level. So I had wanted to call this session Step Away from the Essay, but my dislike of the essay as the main form of assessment in English is not shared by my teaching accomplice, Judy. As a mum with a son with dyslexia and a teacher of smart students who couldn't write well, I've developed a distrust of the essay. And given how time-consuming and laborious marking them is, I would have expected more popular support, really. However, I have stepped away from that title and settled for something more helpful. Well, I hope it is. The title was actually chosen by my co-presenter, Mark Parry, the director of Parryville Media. So, Mark, I could read a potted bio of you, but it would be better if you told us a bit about yourself, from starting as a classroom teacher to becoming a digital learning designer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. I started my career as a science teacher in high school in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s. And then I moved into correspondence as a teacher in a correspondence school. Back in the 90s, that involved cassette tapes and printed booklets. And then the internet came along. And so I was particularly well placed, and I started to develop materials that were on CD-ROMs and DVDs and that sort of thing. And then with the shift to more and more digital online. So I've done a whole heap of teacher professional development over the years, a whole heap of work as an instructional designer, learning designer. And so I worked in corporate and other learning and teaching contexts. So at the moment, I'm teaching a micro-credential at a university, learning design. So, but I find it's just something that I find it fun, learning and teaching teachers. I find even more fun.
All right. So what I have learned over the last 3 years or so, and let's be honest, the pandemic accelerated the use of EdTech, I reckon, by about a decade. And what our other teachers, I think, would realize is that we are really good at designing good learning in our classrooms. In fact, often the problem is that we come up with so many ideas that choosing is difficult. But if the one we've prepared isn't working, we can usually have several that we can pull out of our hat on the spot. But virtual classrooms are a very different kettle of fish. And much as I love new technologies, it's a little bit hard to accept that maybe I wasn't as good at this as I would have liked. I will confess that listening to digital learning designers like Mark talk about the possibilities is sometimes intimidating. I didn't like the feeling that this profession that I'd worked so hard to be good at was changing in ways that made me feel less expert. However, as a pathological learner, I've started to get better at creating good digital PD. There's a way to go before I can say I'm good at it, but it is a process. So when Mark approached me about doing a workshop for English teachers, I had to tuck away my ego and make space so that teachers, you guys, could see what is possible. With so many exciting developments in relation to digital PD and pedagogy, it can get very noisy. So, question mark, do teachers need to become tech gurus, masters, before they can design good digital learning for their students?
The short answer is no.
Cool. Tell us more.
I guess at the heart, I guess this sort of technology, I mean, life is change, as you know. It's always going to be changing. Something, you get used to something, another thing comes along. And so that's even more pronounced in this territory. I won't bring out my props, but, you know, the kind of the way that audio is delivered to students, for example, has changed radically over the last 30 years, over the last 10 years even. And so fortunately, because we're both working within learning and teaching contexts, I like to put the learning and teaching central. Okay, sometimes it's called pedagogy, but essentially teachers know their learning and teaching. And so for us collectively, that's really reassuring. And so
sorry, I was just going to jump in there because I think,
yeah, please do.
I think that is really important to know, that the pedagogy and student agency have to come first. You know, if we put too much emphasis on using the latest and the greatest bells and whistles tech, you can get it can actually take you further away from supporting students.
I mean, they're very seductive, these tools, and they're really fancy, and it's not like we need to avoid using them. They're just all there, and there's been a kind of profound, exciting development over all this technology over the while. It's just, when I was teaching initial teacher education, again at a university, around the time that mobile devices came about, and they loved Candy Crush. And so
so did I.
I don't think I've ever played Candy Crush, but I know it was very popular. And so we used that. One of the students nominated that as her assignment. And I said, do you think your learners will get much out of that experience? And then it was like, and I didn't really need the answer. It was more that her and her group were thinking about it, rather than the person in the supermarket queue playing Candy Crush. We've got our teacher's hat on, and we're using the technology to achieve a purpose. We're not, you know, it's not just to entertain us. And so with that in mind, that kind of, I felt that sent a very clear message. It set a sensible tone within this whole field of dazzle and bells and whistles and engagement and fun. It sent a clear message that it's a reminder. What are we developing these
things for? What are we doing it for?
Yeah, what's the purpose? And they're age appropriate as well. It was fun talking to primary school teachers. Their needs and their learners are quite different to a high school.
Yeah.
Quite different to a university.
I got a terrible shock. Shock or envy, whatever it was. A colleague and friend is the education person at ACS, which is the Australian Computer Society. And she was primary trained with her master's being in digital. And she has built up this amazing platform of resources. When I went onto it to sort of get an idea of what we're teaching, there were little lessons on robotics for grade 3.
Oh, yeah, they do. They're introduced very early.
The digital curriculum is introducing students to these things so much earlier than I thought. So I really had to pick up my game there. so just to sort of put a bit of context in today, the first thing that we are going to do when we look at some tools is look at the free versions. These are not ones that you have to buy.
Correct.
So a couple that you're going to introduce, Genially and H5P, and I have to tell the rest of you, I'm the guinea pig here because I haven't used them either. These are new, but Canva, these are tools that probably teachers are you're probably already using. Adobe, every teacher in K to 12 in Australia has access to Adobe Creative Suite, all of it. And if you can ever work out how to learn that easily, let me know, because it does my head in. But there's some simple ones like Express, which is new, and the other one was Spark, Adobe Spark, which let you build little 2-minute videos. And I think, Mark, you're going to show them later a place where they can get any help they need in putting together Adobe.
Oh yeah, not any help they need, but it's a kind of just a gentle reminder that there's access to. There's lots of professional training clips that you can tap into.
Yeah,
that are there, that are short little clips that just show you how to use it.
How to use them. Yeah. So I think you're going to show them how we can embed something.
Oh yes, embed is one of those key terms. Yes.
And I'm looking forward to knowing that. So tools, there'll be some you'll be aware of, some you might not. Be very sure that we know that teachers, you understand the pedagogy that relates to your subject area. This is not teaching grandma to suck eggs. We are not questioning the knowledge and understanding of the teachers. Neither are we offering you a complete unit of work here. There's no sense that this is some sort of done for you, or the phrase I hear the most and hate the most is teacher proof thing, that you can just drop and apart from the fact that they're insulting, they don't work, because teachers know best what their students need. And they might be different this year to next year, and nothing that is designed as a full-on regular standard thing is going to be of any use in a high school or primary school classroom. So we're just outlining a few possible activities that you can design and incorporate. The other thing is there's been a lot of talk about student voice, and that's becoming very, very important. And I think the good thing about it when we start working with some digital things is that the students will pick these things up very easily on their own. And if we don't guide them in how to use them well, they're not going to know. But what we also know is that students work harder if they feel they've got some sort of agency in the tasks, rather than just being told and given everything. If necessary, down the track, and at some point, I'll pop in a little shot of the curriculum, the ACARA's curriculum document for English, showing that what we are looking at doing is very much part of that. It fits in very nicely, particularly to the sequence of achievements in 7 to 10.
Can we see that earlier rather than later? I like to reassure everyone that,
okay,
it sounds a bit horribly sensible, but
I know, but
that's my starting point. I mean, again, when I was teaching pre-service teachers, we would start with curriculum documents, or and then interpret that. And then it would be like discussion about how can we teach maths by looking at a trip to the zoo. And let's see what the curriculum requirements are. And then we would interrogate those And then we would have a little brainstorm and think, well, yes, the very hungry caterpillar, that seemed to be everyone wanted to use the hungry caterpillar, but we would blend them together by looking at documents like you're showing us on the screen now. And it's great that you've highlighted particular areas. I'm not an English teacher, as I keep saying. So what can you tell us about these?
Okay, so what we're looking at here is the sequence of achievement in 7 to 10. So there's only two areas to it.
Could we get it a bit larger? Can you zoom in on one of those areas?
Can
Just
I?
the plus in the middle. The plus in the middle, up a little bit, up to the left. There, you nearly got, that.
There.
Yep.
So there are two: the receptive modes, so listening, reading, and viewing, and the productive modes, speaking, writing, and creating. And a couple of things I wanted to point out here, because it's going to we'll come back to it, is that they're listening and identifying different emphasis in the text that they're studying. And using that understanding to elaborate on discussion. So what we're talking here is about comprehension, in a sense, in its purest sense. Do they understand what the text is about?
You froze a little bit then, Carolyn.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay, do I need to repeat it, or?
Just repeat it just briefly.
Okay, so that students, this is about comprehension in the best possible way. Do they understand what the text is about? And we're not asking them there to write about it. We're just asking if they understand it. And that is part of assessing where they're at. The idea of evaluating and integrating ideas from other texts to form their own interpretations, that is really important. Now, you'll notice that I'm just playing in the year 8 and 9 here, because the skills are pretty much standard across. It's just the level of understanding or the level of application will vary. And I'm just choosing 8 and 9 because they were in the middle of the page, to be honest.
And what about these productive modes? What's going on there?
Going to come down to that in just a second.
Oh, yep.
But this idea of selecting evidence from texts.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Well, it means that, and so jumping ahead a bit, being an English teacher, I thought the best way to work was to use a text, because that's what we do, a living text, something that's actual real and not, and I've chosen Of Mice and Men because it's a text that I think can be adapted to almost any learning context. It's simple to read, it's short, there are themes in it that are universal, and anyway, so they're going to take evidence from that text. We're asking them to complete a task using evidence from that text to analyze and explain how language choices are used to influence the audience. They're starting to understand and listen for ways that texts, and as English teachers know, everything is a text, but that could take us in a whole range of other directions that are fun, but not necessarily helpful right here. But looking for ways that these texts position the audience to feel. Because once they know that, then they can create their own. And so we're asking them to bring those combined ideas and images from other texts and show us how they can be expressed in different ways. So the students are creating texts from other texts. They're creating texts that respond to the issues, and they're integrating those ideas into the texts that they create. And that's that's an important thing, because we find out how do they fully understand the text in its original, because you can get some flash bang gorgeous presentations, and when you really look at them closely or listen to them closely, you realize that they actually lots of bells and whistles but no real content. And that's something that we need to, prepare for when they're creating text, that there's stuff in there that shows us that they understood it. And the reason I want to come down to here is they edit for effect. Great. Selecting vocab and grammar that contribute to the precision and persuasiveness of text, and using accurate spelling and punctuation. Now, there are a number of ways you can do this. I don't think it doesn't say there that they have to produce a long essay. It just says that whatever they produce, they need to use accurate spelling and punctuation. That wouldn't necessarily have helped my dyslexic son, but what I want to sort of click to there is it doesn't tell us that it has to be a long piece of writing. It just tells us that in their writing, we have to be aware that they have to learn about accurate spelling and punctuation. So that's the a very superficial way that it can tie into the curriculum.
Oh, yeah. No, well, that makes sense. It sets an appropriate tone so that we've got a bit of a direction now.
Yeah.
We're not just kind of making stuff up. We've got our mission.
We have our mission if we choose to accept it.
Well, we have accepted it. We're in it now.
So yes, we've got that. So Mark, I think you were going to talk through some. You were going to do two things today. Well, show teachers how they can create some easy materials, digital materials, but also talk through some materials that students have created.
Okay, maybe. Yep. Maybe the student-generated ones might be a bit more of a talking point. I've definitely got more of those. And I mean, I guess it's kind of one of the things of when you said get evidence from the text, you mean that it's stuff that's in the characters are saying, for example, the dialogue, and then other things they can extract out and provide back to the teacher to say, well, look, I've found this piece to kind of strengthen my argument or to communicate an idea or something.
Exactly, that this piece of evidence, because we're very good in English classes at telling our students that there are no right or wrong answers. There are only right or wrong ways of expressing them for effective and not very effective ways of assessing them. And if you can soundly provide in examples from the text that support your argument, then, and if it's good and you've expressed it well, then you're doing all right.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Good.
Okay. Now, what I'm going to, as you mentioned, I'm going to look through a few different platforms and tools. Yep. There's a zillion of them out there, and they're changing all the time. In a previous era, what we're looking at would have taken a programming team several days, whereas now it's magical. We can just click and do it ourselves, and our learners, our students can do it themselves as well. And so, as you mentioned, oh, yes.
Can I just jump in there? Because you've just said something important. Not that the other stuff you say is not important.
Choice of language.
One of the things to keep in mind, I think, for me, is that a lot of these tasks, and AI is a particular one that we're not going to get into today.
Oh, we are a little bit, but.
Well, yeah, but it's not that they're brand new and we're learning to do something that we never used to do before. But what they do is make things a lot quicker and easier. And so
Exactly.
a lot of that time that we spent on creating a small piece doesn't take as long anymore, because these tools help us to make it do it quicker, and therefore we get back more time to sort of focus on the individual students. Anyway, that was just, I'm sorry, I'll try not to.
That's right. I guess it's all part of it, folds into the whole holistic conversation. And it is something that these tools are out there. We know that. Students are already using them. Teachers are already using them. I guess back to our reason for this presentation, this workshop, is just to kind of match up. It's almost like we're doing a bit of a curriculum map with a kind of looking at some tools and then bringing it back to what's the purpose, encouraging teachers really to scrutinize some of these online tools because they are emerging. They're always changing. One of the things that I looked at the other day, this is, I'm going to pop around with them all, but they look a bit weird because they're AI generated. Adobe, like lots of other companies, lots of other organizations, they're incorporating more and more AI into their tools, which is good and bad and interesting and the rest of it. And so these images are, I'm pretty sure I did a search, or I requested people in a bread line or something, because I knew that Of Mice and Men was about the 1930s depression. And I thought, oh yeah. So this was what it came up with. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's certainly a different way to start generating images. Another resource that I used with this same platform.
Interesting that it's in color. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I could have requested sepia tone. In fact,
most
I think
images around the depression, of course, we didn't have color photography then.
no. Well, we're in a whole new world with all this AI generated imagery. But I think I requested that it was for this one. Oh, there it is. I think it's text to image generated. So I just typed in old barn. I think for some of these I did add sepia tone, like the one on the left.
Yep.
The computer did all that just automatically in about 10 seconds. And so I had to be strategic as to what I was asking it. So I'm not even going to go into all the detail of what I did request, because it's not, teachers can sort that out. But I just want to encourage teachers to get onto these platforms and have a go, have a little investigate and see what's available and see what words generate what images. I think that one's a computer generated image as well. But I might just pop over to something that I've used over the years. I think it's this one. I'm going to just go back.
Pop over to one we prepared before.
Here's one we prepared earlier. I'm a big fan of this site, which is the Internet Archive. It's archive.org. It's based in the US. If you're not familiar with it, I would encourage you to check it out. It's really quite magical. And there's so much stuff on there. And the bulk of it is free to use. But, there's kind of... with anything, there's restrictions and guidelines, and these are important lessons to share with your students as well. But when you were telling me, to be honest, it was a reminder, because I did study this text when I was in high school, but it was a reminder of it's based on this poem. I'm going to play a little bit of the poem.
Robert Burns' 250th Anniversary, Volume 1. To a Mouse, on turning her up in her nest with the plough, November 1785. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
That's good.
For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
So what we're hearing, this is all the kind of front earlier admin type stuff, but LibriVox is also a really good resource where you can see there's a link, LibriVox, but I think the poem starts around now.
Recording by Charles MacDonald. To a Mouse by Robert Burns. Wee sleekit coorin timorous beastie. Oh, what a panic's in thy breastie.
And we won't play that, all due respect to Robert Burns and his poem, but I really like the accent. It adds so much more than just a regular reading.
Oh yeah.
So I was very pleased to have located that. And then if I click on, there's all these different download options and other metadata that might be of use. When you click on that,
Robert Burns, 250.
now I can download it. Significantly, we've got the URL at the top, which has .mp3 at the end. That's going to become significant for some of our platforms. But I wanted to point out just this resource, basically, of Internet Archive. Even though, having said that, lots of these platforms have inbuilt, sorry, I keep going back to that one, inbuilt stock imagery, which may be useful or maybe not. Some of it is free. Some of it, the little crown signifies this is a paid, you need a full premium access. So some teachers might have premium access, but it's fun just to get started and check out what's available at no cost. And all the platforms have no cost imagery. Another one is Canva. In fact, Canva just recently, they announced a whole heap of Australian Indigenous imagery.
Yes.
Which
beautiful.
I don't have that at the ready, but I thought that's really cool that they have incorporated that, ready to use. Also on a top level, before we go into the actual resources, you might see that there's lots of templates. And again, a lot of teachers already know this. I'm telling them something that is already known to them. The idea being that it's a good and bad thing. Students might just click on a template and churn something out and the night before, and it actually hasn't taken them that much time. For a teacher that's not thinking, it might look impressive, but this is where, again, we always start with the pedagogy, and that's really good that you showed us the curriculum. Is it a curriculum guideline?
It's the achievement state for any student in those year levels has to be.
So we know that, and we know that that curriculum document is further developed as a teacher might develop instructions to students or a program of work or something like that. So I want to just show you this. This is one
you could have this really good image, or use a template and come up with something really good. But
that's right.
You would attach, it would have another part to it. If it was an image, you'd have a voice, an audio tape. Why did you make those choices, in order to find out if the students had got what you wanted them to get out of it?
That's right. Because you can save heaps of time. In fact, this one here I'm showing you, this started its life as a template, and then it's only pre-built, and it's not pre-built, it's partially built. I wouldn't consider this a final submitted version, but see, teachers might ask their students to submit a draft and then have commentary and then submit a final version, because there's lots of learning and teaching in just that process.
In the process, yeah.
And I mean, in this one, this is Curly's wife, who I've since discovered is quite a minor character, but this is what she saw, what she did, and a vivid memory of hers. It's a bit of a clue that she doesn't even have a name, but here's the barn, here's men. I'm going to just play this. It has an audio clip embedded.
Curly's wife highlights the two main themes in the novel, dreams and loneliness. As the only woman on the ranch, she is objectified by the men who exhibit the casual sexism of the time. Attitudes towards women were very much tied up with their roles as wives and mothers, or as prostitutes.
So again, our hypothetical student has come up with, I'm going to close that, come up with this idea that she's recounting maybe in first person a character, and then she's put in some themes like dreams and loneliness. If I were to provide feedback to this student, I'd definitely say that font is could be improved. We need it to be readable. And so it looks nice and fancy. And I think it had a mild animation applied to it. But, you know, you don't want to get too hard if it's not crucial. So, and then there's also this particular template has a little notes feature. And so I would probably ask the student to justify some decisions or outline, make it really explicit what her choices, her decisions. And as we kind of talked earlier, what evidence is she bringing from the novel, possibly, so that it's considered, and it's, you know, it doesn't have to be developed into this whole final assessment. It could be just a simple homework task, but I guess it's up to the teacher. And then that is the step before that is to clarify and communicate clearly what the parameters are, maybe, or what the task is. What are they being asked to do?
Yeah. There's a couple of things on Canva that some teachers are not necessarily aware of. I know, because I've spoken to a couple who got very excited when I told them that in the Canva free version, not the teacher one, the Canva free version, they have comic templates.
Oh, let's see if we can
they're
find
sensational.
Template.
So if you just put in graphic novel or
search for it.
Yep, search for comic or graphic novel. Yep.
Oh, yes.
So that's the they're looking at, no, that's looking at a front cover. You want to create
and I'll put comic. Oh, yep.
Yay, here we go.
This is where we're about.
And so if you clicked on one of those,
I'm going to click on that one.
Click on that one and go and scroll down or whatever, and it gives you customized. It has all of these things that you can add to or take away from, and you can change the colors and you can move things around. I used some of those in our we put together a little package on an introduction to teaching Shakespeare, you know, for people for teachers who are not that familiar. And we did a little comic with all sorts of phrases that are in our language that were first introduced, that we first became aware of in Shakespeare's plays. But you can change the colors, you can move things around. They are really intuitive. And it gives you, if you show down the bottom.
Yeah, this one here or down here?
Yeah, so that gives you your choices of speech bubbles that you can put in. So each of the templates comes with a collection of items, whether it's the way the people look or if you, yep.
Well, that's a paid one.
But it doesn't matter because we're only looking for what I was thinking, which is that it'll give you, just click on one. So go down or click through and you can see that it had a whole lot of pages.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. In fact, you can filter these out here.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah, but just let's have a look at what there is first, because that's all we really need to do right now. If you could click on that first one.
Yeah. If we do that one, say
pretty
that.
Please.
There, we've got a couple of different. Well, I've added that page.
Okay, so it's not. So the white one next to it.
The white one next to it. That one.
Yeah. Oh. Yes, go down to the second. Yep. So that's giving you people, but you can put in your
so I can start to get rid of them and I can add stuff. I can change the
or you can change the colors of their clothes, the colors of their hair.
So they're all kind of superficial on a certain level, but they're all part of developing a practical piece of expression, maybe for a learner or a teacher. We're going to get into teacher generated content. I just see
getting students to create a comic strip from a graphic novel, or something like that, that's a fun thing to do. Actually, it was a fun thing for me to do. But
So how would you instruct them? What would you tell them?
okay, so I would, I guess, say we're working from Of Mice and Men, I would ask the students to create a maybe a 2 slides.
What happened on Thursday? I understand Thursday is a significant day.
It's a busy day.
Yeah. So maybe day, what happened on Thursday?
Yep. And you could get them to
I've
create
duplicated that.
different some slides showing what
I reckon
some
that
of
could
the
be.
situations. So one of them would be
Lenny didn't wear glasses, did he? Or maybe we don't.
no,
We
he
don't know.
didn't. He doesn't. Lenny wouldn't be able to. Lenny would be one of those children that people that you would have to have one of those things that went round their neck so they didn't lose their glasses. It would
Oh,
be,
okay. Yes.
it would be a level of information in the text that would just create what is already a significant state of him as a human being. So yeah, I would, ask them to create a number of slides, or what do they call them? There's actually a name for each of the little blocks.
I think I've created one.
And they could
yeah, or similar.
okay.
Where this is, I've popped over to the Adobe version. Can I play this one?
If you want to.
In the book Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Thursday totally goes down the drain. So these two dudes, George and Lenny, are trying to make it during the Great Depression. Lenny's a strong guy, but he's not all there in the head.
I'm going to fast forward to the end.
This whole thing just shows how tough life was back then. Lenny and George had this dream of owning their own land, but that's totally crushed now. The whole mess really drives home how dreams don't always work out, especially when times are as hard as they were during the Great Depression.
Okay. So that could be that a student submits that electronically and then the teacher just looks at it and ticks, gives it kind of an acknowledgement, or it could be developed into more of a solid assessment, or it could be shared in class during an in-class activity. And so the idea with a lot of this digital technology, whether you call it hybrid, blended, it's all there, and it's really up to the teacher to think creatively as to how they want to use this. So, or more significantly, how they want to direct their students, because this would be potentially the foundation for a really interesting, engaging lesson. If the students had if they had different tasks, and then they had a lesson where they're showing all their work, or they could work in groups, a whole range of different possibilities that are really just a variation on what students would be doing, say, already.
And one of the advantages, if we're going back to Canva,
yes,
I wouldn't feel confident in doing just talking about Adobe.
I know we've got to have equity.
Well, it's a lot more complex. It's a much bigger behind the machine behind it is bigger, but that can create issues because it does too much. You're working with 8s and 9s. You don't necessarily need to have that much. But if you were just to say, asking them to create an
Instagram post.
No, I'm back to my comics. I'm back to my comics.
Okay.
But they have different pages have different numbers of like frames. That's the word I was
frames.
You could ask them to create a 5-frame graphic of what happened on Thursday.
Yeah, so it's quantifiable. They're not just it's not a loose instruction.
No. You're giving them a very clear instruction of what it is that you want them to do. Now, of course, before you've done this, you are aware of whether they have used the tool, if they've all got access to the tool, because that's a big thing. And this is a task that probably they're going to do for homework, because they may not all have devices. And I know people, they've all got devices. No, they don't. There are plenty of places where they don't have devices of their own at school. They may have a phone. Chances are they'll have a phone, but in a lot of schools, they won't be allowed to use that phone.
It's brimming with all these issues of access and equity, of privacy, of,
all of those things.
So these are all things that just teachers obviously need to be across. But
and of course, with a frame like that, say 5 frames, you're giving them the opportunity that they can draw it if they want to.
Yeah.
If they don't have the device, they can get a big piece of paper and break it into 5 bits and do stick figures. They don't have to be, these are students and we're checking their comprehension, not their artistic ability.
That's right. I want to show you this one that I used recently. And again, this is something that I use the same audio for.
Curly's wife highlights the 2 main themes in the novel, dreams and loneliness. As the only woman on the ranch, she is objectified by the men who exhibit the casual sexism of the time.
So this is something where the animation, the software can animate a character automatically by just uploading an MP3 file.
Yeah,
or audio file.
Mind-blowing stuff, isn't it?
It's great. It's really quite interesting and engaging. And again, it's up to how the teacher uses this technology, or how they direct their students. I've just looking at the time, we've got to keep on track. I just wanted to point out all these pieces of software have lots of how to use platforms, like Genially has Genially Academy. Canva has a significant amount of teacher resources. With Genially, for people that are not familiar with Genially,
which I wasn't,
I'll show you this one, which is, I keep using that same audio. I really like Genially. We use it, I use it for my own learning design students, but I'll just click on present. This is a very simple one. All I have done is I've uploaded a background image and I've made this interactive eye. Now, I suspect the student may have just done a direct copy and paste. So I would advise, no, that's not good.
Yep.
Then
Curly's wife highlights the 2 main themes in the novel.
I pressed that twice. So if we look at the edit mode, if I click on that, we've got a few other options here. And if I click on that, that's my embedded audio.
Curly's wife highlights the 2 main themes in the novel.
And then you'll notice I've cut out that first chunk. The first few seconds, it was me getting prepared. And so I needed to neaten it up. So if I needed to neaten that up in a more significant way, I would use other software, which then all these things are obstacles sometimes, and it gets all too difficult.
Okay. Can we play? Can we do it?
Yes.
So I've started I've signed up for a free Genially account.
I'm going to stop sharing.
I've signed up for a free Genially account. So let me see if I can.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll just talk through.
Yeah, you talk through while I'm doing this.
Just some of the options. I did have another platform I wanted to demonstrate briefly, which is called H5P, but we'll get to that shortly. But these are just a quick snapshot of what's possible. And, I guess it's kind of looking at how you want to, almost like the rules of engagement. And so I found that a lot of my pre-service teachers were intimidated, if that's the right word, of the technology, and they would click. And like we experienced before, Carolyn, remember we went to load the H5P
Oh,
and
yeah.
the
Yeah.
server was down. So if you're getting used to this sort of territory and then you see that, it can be really off-putting, which is understandable. And so I guess it's just keeping that in mind. Everyone knows a good teacher always has a plan B
Yeah.
at the ready, and they always remain calm, and they go to that plan B as needed, because the technology isn't always reliable. And then, the dog ate my homework type thing, the link is broken or something like that. That happens. So you just got to plan for that, I suppose. But I mean, it's kind of especially with AI and especially with all these different new possibilities, it's just amazing what people can do, what you can do. But it does come back down to what I call sensible learning and teaching parameters from the teacher. Not a free-for-all. And it's like teachers just need to have a click around, create a free account, see what's possible. It should be, and it's fun. It's not like it's a chore. I guess, it does take time though. There is a learning curve. How are you
Okay.
going with your?
If I share my screen now,
Yes, I'm dying to see what you have.
so
what you're gonna do.
I've got, what I want to do is I want to have that stuff I was recording before.
Yep.
So I don't want.
Yeah, because one of the
signing that
limitations
and that.
One of the limitations of these platforms is some of them allow you to upload audio in the free version, whereas others you can't do that. You need to record it directly within the platform.
Yeah.
And so I haven't shown you exactly the kind of platform and how to embed everything. However, there's all these little funny restrictions, I suppose.
Okay, I am about to share my
Yep.
screen.
Here it comes. Okay, that's looking good.
Now, is there anything I'm sharing that I shouldn't be there?
No, looking all right.
Looking okay.
I didn't show. There's the quiz. I forgot to share that quiz.
Yeah, let's come back to that because
we'll come back to that one.
Yeah. Okay, you can go away.
We need some Carolyn generated content.
Okay, so I'm going to create a presentation, or
just a presentation.
Teach the class a little. We want just something that they can listen to.
Oh, don't start with a template. Just start with something, a blank, I reckon.
A blank? Where do I find a blank?
Just click on presentations.
Yep.
And then where are we?
Basic presentation.
Basic presentation.
Excellent.
Because sometimes there's too much going on.
Yeah.
And then just use this template. And as you've demonstrated, they're so intuitive, these environments, but they do change and they do save automatically, but you do sometimes have to look at the little cloud on the top left or the top right just to make sure that it's saved.
Okay.
Here we go.
Blank. Okay. So I also, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I'm going over here and I want to put in a picky.
Add audio.
Yeah, I want to add this.
Yep.
But I haven't got it. Hang on, see our classroom resource.
Yep.
Oh, cool. So I wonder if that'll let me copy the image. And this is a copyright-free thing for using in a classroom.
Yep.
Oops.
So sometimes I would recommend always, you just have to have that the preliminary step to prepare your audio, prepare your media, rather.
Media, yeah.
A little folder on your computer, and you just spend a bit of time gathering your assets and just getting organized so that they're all at the ready. So you can see there's the instruction. Drag your images here.
I know, but I didn't download it.
Oh, well, there you go. See, sometimes you can copy and paste. Other times you have to formally download the file and then you upload it.
Yeah. Whereas
So once you figure it out, just right click on that and you should be able to, there it is, save image as.
yeah. Okay. I'm calling it diff just because when
Naming conventions are important.
yeah, but for now it's just because I want to find it easily on my desktop.
Yep, that's another.
So D is easier to get to than trying to look through it for any other.
Yep. There it is. I can see it there. You're going to drag it in
too. All right. Move over, get to here. And drag it here. Yay.
There it is. So you can resize it to make it larger.
Or whatever.
Yep.
And then I want to add audio.
Now, can I give you I don't want to mansplain the process to you, but are you going to add background audio or are you going to add audio that you can click to play a clip?
Yes, that is what I'm going to do.
So which one of those left-hand menu items do you need to select in order to get that to happen? That's it. Interactive elements.
All right. Audio. It's not a link. Oh, there.
There it is.
There it is.
Yep. It's probably lost in that man's lunch pail.
That's all right. So I'm clicking.
Oh, hang on, man. Oh, you've lost me. What did you click on then?
Audio.
Could you just go back and just show us? Because I'm not sure that our audience would have followed that. So when I
had this,
yeah,
another thing came up this side.
I can see that. Hang on. I reckon
I went in and clicked.
Could you drag it over to that little part on the left so that it's nice and clear? That's it. So then, if you click away from it, so it looks like it's just a little icon, but when you click once on it, you get this other set of menus items, and then you click on add.
And that's what happened. And then I went here.
Okay, that's audio. Nice and clear.
So then I'm going to go to something I said before, which was this idea of sometimes that there are specific images that stick in your head. And am I recording?
I don't know yet. No,
I am. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you do have to allow access to your microphone. Yeah. I can see that's recording now.
Cool. Often there are things that happen in life that there are very specific images for. For many there are images of 9/11, of the 9/11 World Trade Center bombs, that whenever you mention it, they're the images that came to mind. The image that I'm showing right now is of Australian men during the Depression who are going to have had to leave home, much like George and Lenny, and they walked from place to place to try and to get work. The country went through it was the stock market crash in America that caused the global depression. And it wasn't, these men weren't searching for work because there had been fires in Australia or, the crops had failed and drought. It was absolutely because of this single event, which had to do with economics and money. But they had to leave home. And what I loved about this image when I found it was, you can see that they're all carrying their billy. Now, carrying a tin had a practical purpose. It kept their cigarettes, their matches, whatever, dry if the weather wasn't good. You can see that some of them have got, this guy's got a netting over his hat. I'm not sure if these are corks for the flies or whether it's a background image. But this was an Australian man looking for work, 1930, part of the National Library of Australia. That image helps us to understand and make the whole idea of what George and Lenny were going through, lets us make it part of the Australian experience, and perhaps then understand it a bit more. Because often what happens is the images you use or some of the things you do, it seems like they belong to someone else. It doesn't, we don't connect with it because it happened somewhere else. And so it's good to be able to relocate that idea for the students as we are giving them their requirements. And I'm going to stop the audio.
Now, I've found in my experiments every single time when I've gone to save, it'll give me a little error and then it'll come back. Oh, yeah, here it is. You can see it saving there. There, that oops error. But
Yep.
Your audio's in there. You can rename it if needed. You can top and tail it if you need to. Take the beginning and the end off.
The Depression in Australia. 1930s. So that's that. Audio options.
Oh, yeah, we don't have to worry about those for the moment.
Pardon?
No, that was the recording of me.
Okay.
That might signify that you might need to cut that first few seconds off.
Okay, so we're going there. Hang on. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so
I reckon for the purpose of our demo, you could probably just leave that and save it, and because I want to show the quiz and I want to show the timeline.
Yeah. Okay, so and to edit, super easy. You just do this.
You just chop off the bit. But I like to be prepared enough so that you don't need to do that. But
yeah, I would have done this. I mean, I would imagine I've done this beforehand. It's been done, ready to stick up.
This is a good example where when I did this, I embedded it the poem from archive.org as a link, whereas you've demonstrated that you can record directly in the platform. If you have the paid version, you could have uploaded your own audio file. So there's all different options and different approaches depending on the platform.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Oh, no, save it. Save your work.
Oh, sorry.
I want you to demonstrate what's happening. If you click on present at the top on the right, top right, there it is.
Oh,
and then just click on all set. Now, a lot of the time, the free version is public. Down on the bottom right.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Teachers need to realise that sometimes the free version is public. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, yes.
And now when that pops up, this is the author. Did this just click on present? Where did it go? Did it pop up in another tab for you? Here it comes. Here it comes. How come it's not why is it here? We're a bit lost.
No, this one's saying wow.
It's on the second slide, I think.
Yes. So
just that arrow on the right.
There we go.
There it is. Now click, there's that icon. Click it once.
That happen in life that there are very specific images for.
Success.
In now, there are images of
Now, just press that again to pause it. Now, I would probably recommend, as any teacher, it's looking a little bit lonely, that icon. You might want to add some instruction, click here for more, or a title or something. It's really good over there rather than down on the man's lunch pail, because we see it there and it's clear, prominent. So it's all about the screen design.
So how would I add something else?
Well, we need to get out of this. This is the presentation mode. So go back to the authoring mode, which you had up earlier. It's in one of those other tabs.
Okay, no, let's get this line of stuff out.
Yeah, just to navigate these systems is its own challenge. So we're back in authoring mode. So what did you want to do? Maybe if you add some text or something like that? What do you want to do?
Add some text.
Yeah, so go up to text on the left and click on it. And then you've got all these different options. I reckon looks like it's missing a title. Or, this is good that you can copy and paste out of stuff. I would recommend copying and pasting rather than typing directly in. But it's up to the...
It might not have... Oh, shush. It might not copy and paste from the live recording. But I downloaded the document, so I should be able to do it there anyway.
You can generally you can copy and paste text into these.
Yeah, things. But not on Otter. You have to download it.
Oh, I see.
Remember, I downloaded the text.
Yep.
And I'm going to open this little.
Yeah. So what we're experiencing now, these are the realities of using these platforms, and sometimes your cognitive overload can get full, or cognitive load can get very full very quickly. And you've already got, and you spend hours and hours and hours, and you actually haven't developed anything. So I would recommend if you're new to these sort of platforms, just have a playful click around and see what's possible, and just get familiar with
it. Yeah.
The environment.
And look, we know that. We know, we've been showing videos and presentations and different things in English. So I'll stop sharing now.
Yep.
English teachers have been doing this for a long time. So it's now, it's just another thing. But I could do that. That's the first time I've used it. And you just told me what to do.
And it's pretty straightforward.
It was pretty straightforward. But more importantly, you showed me a couple of tools that I thought would be really helpful. So I'm going to throw back to you to do that, if that's okay.
Okay. I'm going to, where are we? I've just got to get the correct. Here we are. We're back to this one. I'm just going to pop over because I really want to mention H5P. Now, H5P, some of you may be familiar with, but it's basically, this is a free version, but this is really just to have a little look around and see what's possible. But just does things like this, where it's click the card and it turns around. I've got some other examples that I've developed. In fact, I've got, where are we?
Was the quiz on?
Oh, yeah, the quiz. I'll pop it.
I know that's genially again. Sorry.
Quiz as well. I'll just show these very, very quickly because I like this one. Good. This is like a little.
Yeah, I like that one
drag and drop. What's a juncture mean, and what's anguish? What's an acre? What's a bindle? Who knows what a bindle is? So I got all of them wrong. So these are things that teachers might develop as part of, we're probably running out of time to show the teacher generated, but you demonstrated a teacher generated resource. And then I can embed, if I click on that, and again, sometimes these are publicly viewable or not. You've just got to check the permissions, but this is the embed code. So if you have a website or a learning management system, you can use that code, and I won't show you how to do that because we're running out of time. But if I copy that, I can paste it down and it will display within a website kind of.
Yeah, and most schools have
view.
LMSs that they use.
That's right. And
Mm.
so if schools are keen on H5P, maybe you can ask your IT department, maybe you already subscribe to it. Now, another one that you'd mentioned is this sequence of events.
Yeah.
And so I really like this one. As we discussed a few days ago, the sequence of events is not anything new. You usually just pick up a piece of paper and you develop it, whereas it's really fun developing. This is the authoring mode. It's really fun developing a sequence of events using these tools.
Mm.
And it looks fancy. And when I click on here, this is what's happening at that point in time. What was the thing about the emotional? It was the emotional pathway or something.
No,
I liked that a lot.
Yeah, it's something that English teachers have done for a long time, is that rather than, because we're looking at a text for a whole range of reasons and we're trying to get kids to think below the what's this about, and they tell you the plot. An emotional timeline is something that when you're going through the text, you can get the students to, often it would be a big thing on the wall of the classroom sometimes, and they put clouds on it for when people were happy, when things were going badly, and sort of follow the emotional timeline rather than just the plot.
Yeah, I like this because, again, it's grounded in pedagogy that's really engaging. Says I, as a former science teacher. Now, this is a template that has been modified. I just called it Lenny's Pane, and then there's all these different windows.
Yeah,
and it's based on who wants to be a millionaire, or millionaire quiz, and I'm trying to second guess what a student might do. And there's questions about, oh no, that's not, this is not the, I don't know what's happened there.
because you had, there was one that had all the things in.
Yeah, I've lost all my fine work.
I've got all your fine work here.
Oh yeah, can you see if you can share that?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not devastated that I've lost that,
will.
but it's curious. But see, again, teachers might decide that a group of students develop the quiz and then you have a special lesson. And here we are. Curly tries to pick a fight with Lenny because he doesn't like big something. And then stakes are high. Oh, of course you're going to know the answers.
George tells Lenny to keep it. So we're down to up to 200 points because she looks like
trouble. That's evidence from the text as well.
Absolutely. Curly comes in. Lenny is smiling at the thought of being able to tend the
would have to be rabbits.
And look,
I like this one.
The best laid schemes of mice and men, gang after glee, translates as often go astray.
Now, Carolyn, it's not going to be entertaining just to click through all the correct answers.
I think it's entertaining. Well, we've got to Latin text, so
yes,
chances are wrong. Start over.
So I feel as though we're reaching the end of our time.
See, I think this one's so much fun. And I mean, let's be honest. How much does a bag of Freddos cost?
Oh, this is the prize, not $1 million. It's a bag of Freddo.
A Freddo. You know, I mean, we've been bribing students since the beginning of time to make it fun and, get them to engage a little bit. I'm not sure if you're allowed to do that anymore. It might be against something, but there's something you can do at the end, to encourage them to keep going. I did it just because I think it's fun, but then
you might be intrinsically motivated.
I'm intrinsically motivated to know stuff and get it right. So,
So, I mean, really, pedagogically, this is really only recount of, a word even, but still, there's the foundation is there. These quiz questions could be developed into something more nuanced, more about the internal state of the characters,
and it would show that the student was understanding. They knew they couldn't answer these if they didn't know the story.
That's right. Now I think I've shown everything that I wanted to show.
I liked his cheeky Big Macs.
Well, you have to make it kind of a bit random, a bit entertaining.
Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing now.
I
liked the vocab one it was on H25.
H5P.
Because you could make it longer. You just put 5 in to show.
Oh, yeah.
But I had to do it. I mean, again, I'm intrinsically motivated, but when I saw it, I wanted to do it.
Yeah, see, H5P, I'll just pop over to this. If we go to examples and downloads, there's so many different types. There's presentations, interactive video, branching scenarios are really interesting. You can get a lot of these look like they're designed for younger learners, but it's up to the kind of when you use it, it's up to you how you might interpret these dialogue cards. There's so many of these.
You know what's just come to mind? Sorry.
Yeah.
Or look, teaching is one of the only professions that I'm aware of where if you are sick, you still have to provide your lesson plans for the person coming in to mind your class. So you can wake up in the morning and you feel like you're dying, and you still then have to send in your work for the classes that you're going to miss. Having a little collection of these activities in your back pocket could be a really good thing to take some of the pressure off when you wake up at 6:30 in the morning and your head's pounding, but you have to have your stuff hauled into the school by 7:30. So having some of these would be really helpful.
Lots of different ways these can be used, but I mean that's stating the obvious, really.
Of course, but
these sort of things are really nice, where you just, I mean, they're really simple.
Yeah.
Click and it displays something like a video or a piece of text or another photo.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
But yeah,
I like that. Look at that one.
So these are, keep in mind, H5P is a little bit more complex, but still, it depends on what your setup is. I just wanted to show you here, if we look down at this little share and click on it, there's lots of different options for sharing, and we can have this kind of the script, the embed code, where again, if we have an LMS or a web page or something like that, we can embed it into it so it's seamless. And so it does feel like a lot of work, and potentially it is, and you can waste a lot of time, certainly, and you can spend the whole weekend and you don't actually develop anything, or but your students would be familiar with these platforms, environments, tools anyway.
Yeah. And there's a good chance the teacher's going to be spending all weekend anyway working on what they're going to do the following week. And once you get a handle on these things, they are then much faster.
That's right. And I mean, you know, there's lots of collaborative opportunities to you can, as we did a few days ago, we shared each other's, we shared it with each other's accounts so that we could work on the same
document. That's right.
So that can be a way to kind of to work, but it is one of those things. It's kind of I guess it's all out there. It is evolving, this kind of AI and the rest of it.
There was Lauren Sayer, who's the director of the curriculum board for Victorian teachers, Victorian schools. She made a really good point last night in the presentation where she said, keep in mind when they were talking about AI, keep in mind that what we are seeing now is the worst possible version because it's the first. And it's going to get better and tighter, and all of those things are going to get better. And so while we look at it now and we don't know what it does half the time and we're not sure, we need to remember it's the worst possible version. It'll get better. And all of this tech has got better. And therefore we get faster at doing it, and then we save time in the long run.
So how do we want to wrap this our workshop up?
Well, I feel like my I've got thoughts going through my head in 85 different ways.
Well, what are you, let's have a breath. And what are they? What are the next steps?
Just that there's that thing of, oh gosh, I'd really like to spend some time doing this, but that means I'm not going to get time to do that. Is it something, teachers are so overwhelmed. The state of the profession at the moment is hard, and teachers in the classrooms are carrying the weight of that. So that is a concern. Are they going to be at, I mean, it's easy to say these things are great, but how do you explain to an overwhelmed teacher who's trying to keep all the balls in the air the value of spending just a few minutes?
Yeah, I think I'm reflecting on my own reasons for wanting to collaborate with you on this, because, and what was my motivation for wanting to, and it is a case of I'm used to developing these sort of resources, and then they're up there. And you did hint at this with the relief teacher concept, but if you build it once, you can have it there, and then you can actually, with just a click, it might be like 25 minutes of student activity with just sharing a resource that you've created once. So then you can start to reuse it, or you can, like, there's strategic ways where it's not like you have to be the ringmaster and you're there having to entertain the students. It's thinking strategically, how's this resource going to be used? And this taps into the learning design aspect, because the teacher, horror of horrors, doesn't have to be there all the time when the learner is engaging with these resources. They can sit on the cloud or sit in a learning management system, and they might be preliminary activities, they might be extension activities, homework, little tasks, a hundred different things.
Yeah, I thought some of those, when we were going through, I thought, some of those little video things with background information could be a homework task, to listen to it.
The teacher's always going to be needed to coordinate. Yes. Of course, I know well.
No, I mean, it's the most important thing is supporting the teacher in their pedagogy, because that's what matters to teachers. How do I relate to these children in my class? And the differentiation thing, I think, is something we haven't had much chance to talk about today.
Yeah, but that's implied with all of this. Yeah.
There are a number, you can see that there are a number of tools that would allow you to do perhaps things at a slightly different level of difficulty, and some that would suit a moderate ability, or, there's things that you can do to keep each level of student engaged, because that's hard, and teachers have to do that every day they go into their classrooms. And that's why I get so angry when I hear the word innovation, even though DIF is called the Digital Innovation Festival. When I hear people talk about teachers need to be innovative, I want to say, you go and spend a term in front of a year 9-10 class, and then come back and tell me how to innovate, because teachers are doing it on the hop every day. Anyway, that's my little spiel.
Yes.
Little soapbox. And look,
we've got to bring it home, I think.
These things are to help make the teacher's life more satisfying, not easier, because I don't think teachers are looking for an easy life, but they are looking for one where they feel as if the students are engaged and they're making a difference, that they are, that the students are getting the very best that they can. And I think some of these tools help you do that. Mark,
We're going to leave it there.
I have to tell you, thank you so much. Thank you.
I've enjoyed collaborating with you, Carolyn.
I've had a ball working with you too. I mean, one of the things that hits you when you leave the actual classroom and the staff room, more importantly, staff room, is you miss that collaboration. You miss bouncing ideas off other teachers and how much better we are collectively often. Anyway, thank you again. I cannot thank you enough for your time and what you've put into this without necessarily a lot of understanding or assistance from me.
Oh, yeah. No, I like this free form. The free form kind of, it's human. It's a human event.
Yeah, it worked better than I expected. And I didn't look quite as incompetent as I could have done. So
no, well, you demonstrated competence. If I had a checklist of, criteria.
Well, there you go. We love to hear about criteria. Thank you again. And to anyone who's been listening to this, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.